Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by your DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 489, titled In a Library Inside the Dragon. Actual play begins immediately.
Hello, I'm Scott, your DM for this 5e adventure, The Heretic. With us tonight, starting on my right, is...
I am Tom. I am playing Alder Rusha, a human male cleric of Amira, and a new skill-seeking rogue.
Hi, I'm Mike, playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and an Eldritch Knight of the Fist of Amira.
I am Jim, playing Grodor, a hobgoblin warlock and one of the road-weary Fists of Amira, searching for truth, knowledge, and the Iron Sword Pass.
I'm John, playing Melody, female human cleric, third of the exemplar family, Harmony, ex-ambassador turned political operative.
I'm Thomas. I'll be playing Gabrielle de Angelis. She's a female human paladin and a holy fist of Amira who's unknowingly taken the first steps towards her destined oath of conduct.
All right. As we left off last week, the group had encountered 3 Goliaths, members of a clan that were following the shunned member who had recently battled with our heroes. Through a tense negotiation, each group kind of made their peace with the battle remnants, the Goliaths taking their fallen comrade back into the mountains, and the group preparing a burial for the 2 unfortunate winery employees who met their end on the South Way. Back at the camp, Alder and Mel ran into a strange situation as Mel revealed to Alder that there was a knocking noise coming from a box that she was transporting from Temerity to Harask. After much mayhem, a paper drake was released from the box. Eventually it was figured out that it was not aggressive and actually had kind of drawn itself close to Melody in some sort of relationship that it seemed to have with her that she didn't quite understand. A little later on, outside as they were breaking camp, Mel looked deeply into the eyes of the paper drake as it stared back at her and fell unconscious. Obviously, this caused much consternation among the group, who decided to forego attacking the paper drake as it seemed to still hover over her and be protective, and placed her in the back of the wagon as they proceeded on their way to Iron Sword Pass. Towards the end of the last session, the group crested a hill and came into Iron Sword Pass and looked down upon the city of Iron Sword. At that point is where we'll pick up tonight's action.
Since we're getting close to the city, I go to the back of the cart and peek in there to see how Melody's doing. I've been checking on her quite frequently, but I just want to see if anything has changed.
Melody's stirring, and she has the book on a palm, hold it to and say, evil, and it origami folds into a new book from a atlas to the grimoire. And I said, apparently we didn't lose this.
So, wait a minute. The dragon is a book now? I mean, I get that it's folding itself like the dragon did, but...
It's kind of a library, I suppose. Whatever it eats, it kind of holds on to. And when I was passed out, I figured out a couple of the books digested. Some still elude me, but I got our old one back.
Is that good?
Yes. This was an item I was supposed to return to someone, and it may be that getting them the contents of the book will be enough. But
wait a minute, why did you have to give this book to someone?
It was a delivery. I don't really know the details of it. Not the grimoire.
Jesus, I thought we were just on an Amira mission. You have your own thing. Grodor's working for somebody else. What?
It was just something to pass along when we got there, and then it bought us health potions. That's why I did it.
Which I appreciate. All right, but here's the thing. If you can figure out how to turn that book back into a dragon, you can give it to him, then have it turn into a dragon and come fly back.
I suppose. I will not make any friends that way.
Were you doing this to make friends or make money?
It was a job for a friend, so it'd be rather disappointing. I'll figure it out. It's not something for now. I just want to tell Grodor that we got his book back.
Melody? I know you'll figure it out.
Okay.
It's a good thing. You okay though? What was happening while you were sleeping? It kind of scared us that you were knocked unconscious.
Yeah, I was connected to the dragon in some way. A dream state where I was like in a library inside the dragon. It was the tomes that the dragon can become. I learned a couple, but there's more.
So if you close your eyes right now and just kind of imagine the dragon being back, it doesn't change the book, huh?
No, let me try that. Nope. Unless it does.
It does not. Imagining it does not make it so.
Dragon.
Saying it doesn't work either.
Its name, I'm going to name it Tome. Tome.
Tome does not return. Tome is still a grimoire in your hands.
Evil.
The dragon origamis back into form.
Oh, it's a toggle.
You just turn it back into a dragon?
Yeah, evil.
It turns back into a grimoire.
Evil.
Turns back into a dragon.
Whoa.
It probably looks at you pissed off like, what?
Stop it.
Well, hold on. We'll get some books in the... No, we're just coming into town. Hold on. I'll get you something to eat.
All right, good. Well, I just was checking on you because pull the curtain back a little farther. Yeah, you can't see anything because you're looking backwards. In front of the wagon is a gigantic...
I'll turn around.
Gigantic city that we have been heading towards. It's called Ironsword. It's a kind of Ironsword Pass you can see there between the mountains.
Oh, I've been here.
Yes, Melody has passed back.
Oh, that's right. See, I've never been here. I'm impressed. It looks impressive.
It's the reason only the East has fallen.
Which is good. Are we going to have a problem going through the city? Is there a government here that...
I mean, there is, but we've got special dispensation. If we don't want to reveal it, I can do the whole I'm from this family business. I could talk to people. I definitely need real sleep. That was not real sleep, but I know that we're in a hurry, so it can be here or past here. I can get us through if we need to.
And just to pass along a reminder, it's about 8:00 in the evening. You got to a very late start in your travels on this day because you're up late with the Goliath.
Yeah, I think Melody just doesn't know whether it's gloaming or sunrise.
Yeah, the picture that we have that represents the city by some fine artist is rather accurate because the sun is setting in the west, so there's a stream of light coming in.
Lots of shadows.
At an angle, lots of shadows.
Good for mountains.
It's always been an impressive city. Ironsword is more of a citadel city than an actual town or large city like Temerity is. It is massively fortified. And what you remember, Melody, from passing through, and Grodor from passing through, and Marduk from passing through, you recall that it was a very patriotic city. It was very proud of its history of having never fallen, very proud of its idea as a bastion of protectiveness for the country of Emira, specifically for Western Emira. It's a military town. There's garrisons there. There's outside in the hills and the mountains surrounding it, besides there being wineries and farms, there's also industry. There's military works where they put together catapults and ballista, trebuchets. It's an industry into itself. It's a military town, and perhaps its crowning achievement, the thing that's most impressive or most memorable when it comes to other people thinking of Ironsword, is the War Eagles. The War Eagles that patrol overhead had been a point of pride. It's the only city who has its own air cavalry in Amira, and it's something that the whole country takes pride in, and something that definitely is a talking point and a source of local pride in the city itself. So hopefully that paints a little bit of a picture of Iron Sword as you wind down the trail from the last hill towards the massive gates on the on the western side of the city.
Well, if we're staying here for the evening, then I mostly is that Melody was passed out and doesn't know if this sun is setting or rising.
Right.
But
yeah, it's evening. It's 8 o'clock, and I'm telling you, we need to find a inn on the east side. So in the morning when we leave, we're going right out the door. Otherwise, Marduk's going to get cranky. He's trying to push us to move faster.
Okay.
So we need to get as far as we can.
That I hope I can do that quickly. But there's so much here. I kind of want to show him some things before we go. Well, I could probably give it to Aureliel, but I think I could get him to unwind a bit.
Is it going to rain?
No, it looks pretty clear. It's the mountains, so the clouds are low. It's not perpetually overcast, but there's always clouds around. So that's why you're getting the sun and shadows here at the end of the night on the, as Melody said, the gloaming of the evening. So it's late. Melody looks exhausted. Alder, you can see she has dark rings under her eyes. She did not sleep at all last night and looks like she hasn't slept in a while.
Feel free to stay in the wagon, Melody. I know you're tired. I'll talk to everybody else and we'll get them as far through the city as we can.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to stay stationary. I'm going to get out. I'm too excited about this place, even if I am tired.
Understandable. We want to end up somewhere near the East Cape.
I can manage that.
So you make your way to the large, well-guarded entrance to the western side of the city of Ironsword. You have a guard who asks for papers. You show them the papers that you have that was prepared for you by Ribbon, Interior Ministry. And you are passed through the city gates into the bustling town of Ironsword. As it is still light outside, dusk has not yet settled on the town. First thing that kind of catches your eyes is just how the city is built on a hill. As you look upwards towards the central citadel of the town, each one is slightly higher than the one in front of it. It is definitely built on a hill. There is a large ring-like street that loops around the bottom of the hill as Mel walks you through it. This is the lower ring, she tells you. That allows you to circumvent the city. There's a lower ring, there's a middle ring, and there's an upper ring. Those allow you to go around the city proper of the hill. On this western side of Ironsword, what also grabs your attention is there seems to be a lot of citizenry out and about. Almost all of them are garbed in blue and silver. And they're walking through the streets, arms locked, singing songs, chanting. There's a high degree of excitement in the city, and it's palpable to you who are passing through. You're on the lower ring. There are streets that go upward.
I'm assuming there's some type of pathway for wagons.
The lower ring, the middle ring, and the upper ring are all wide enough for wagons. Now, the lower ring is the widest of the three rings, the middle ring being the middle sized, and then the upper ring is more for like small carts and stuff like that. So as you go higher, the streets get a little thinner, but you are on the lowest ring right now, and that is capable of handling 2 horses in a cart and then some.
We may as well go all the way around here to get where we're staying for the night. We could stay higher up, but it's going to be more costly and it's going to leave a bigger footprint.
Is it a holiday or something? Gabrielle asks tentatively, gesturing towards
go
the
ahead.
in the streets.
Those of you who have been in town before, go ahead and make a history check.
Yes, this is to reflect Gabrielle's own history check, who, out of towner that she is, resulted in a total of 3.
Grodor rolled 18 plus 2, so 20.
I rolled with advantage, but they were both 14. I took that off.
How very perfect of you to roll the same number when you mistakenly rolled for advantage. That will be 14.
Marduk rolled a 13.
Grodor, you actually passed through when it actually happened. There are jousting tournaments that take place between the Eastlanders and the West Enders. The town is divided in half, much like the nation is. So you right now are in the western half of Iron Sword. So the West Enders are out in their blue and silver, and they're chanting and singing songs. It's pretty obvious to you, Grodor, and in lesser so, but you kind of piece it together for Melody and Marduk. There's going to be a jousting tournament tonight with the War Eagles.
Oh.
And the fans and people are out in force, and they're singing songs, and they're drinking in the streets, and they're just really excited about, apparently it was going to be a nighttime jousting event in the skies above Iron Sword. The West Enders are out in force.
I've seen it during the day, but not during the night. It's a spectacle to watch. And if you like to gamble, they do take money.
Seems heady danger, jousting in the midst of the sky.
They do fall, but they are attached to their birds, so they don't fall far. But it's
they had
super
nets.
dangerous. Nets, Nets are for maybe when they're training, but these are professionals.
Is this just a one-day event, or do they do something tomorrow? Because it would be really exciting. Alder starts to talk about this and then sees Marduk shaking his head. No.
We're leaving in the morning.
Never mind.
It's usually a one-day event, although there's two Aries in the city. There's War Eagle riders on the western half of the city, and then there's an Aerie on the eastern half of the city. Both of them in the main citadel itself. But there's a lot of competition between the two of them. Usually 7 riders aside spar off, and then whoever wins the majority of the 7 jousting events has the bragging rights for another quarter or so, about 3 months' time. And so there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of pride on stake here.
I'm certainly going to be watching.
Where is the competition usually held?
It's usually held in the skies around the central citadel. Since it's a nighttime event, you can kind of look up towards the citadel, and you see where there's flags that come out from the citadel that mark starting points. There's magical lights that are like above the track of that the eagles would fly towards each other for the joust.
It's not like sectioned over on the east side or the west side or
No,
north
it runs
or south.
between the two to be as diplomatic as possible.
There's probably plenty of rooftop bars and whatnot that you could find yourself in.
Exactly. Residents are standing on their rooftops drinking. There's people in the streets, of course, celebrating, like I said, kind of chanting these.
You know what's going to suck,
songs.
though, guys, is that since
All
they're
the
having the
ends are
tournament
cool.
tonight, rooms might be a little scarce.
Hurry then.
As Fists of Amira, do we have access to any official barracks? I mean, we
could
are
try
academy
that.
trained.
It would
Yes.
definitely be higher up than we wanted. We wanted something by the East Gate, but free can't really be beat, so I don't mind having folk weigh in.
I'm up for whatever. I don't care if we're on the lower or upper level. I've seen the jousts before. It'd be neat to watch it at night, but then again, getting a good night's sleep would be nice too. And Melody looks like she's about to keel over.
Yeah, I'll be hitting an early night. I just want to show you folks around before I retire.
Well, how much longer would it take us to get to the higher? Because there's got to be a military base here, and we are technically members of the military. We don't have to share it with the public, but we can definitely share it with them.
That huge citadel in the middle of the picture is known simply as the Citadel. It is the seat of government power and the seat of many of the barracks. There are smaller barracks scattered throughout the town, of course. They're not all up high, but the majority of the barracks are up high. And it would just be maybe 10 or 15 minutes more to be in the Citadel. You'd have to work your way through some of the smaller, more winding streets as you get up higher and higher in the hill.
So 10 minutes longer and a fantastic view of the eagle jousting.
All right. fine. I got people to show you up there anyway. I do know a couple around here, higher up. Sometimes when Vellum fell to the lawgivers, scholars would have fled with what tomes they could carry and deemed valuable, and brought them here to the pass for safekeeping. They have since been copied and returned back to Vellum, but the library remains. It's kind of like the next best. And I would like to bring Grodor there, drop him off the tome in the form of the grimoire, and whatever research he wants to do there. And then another stop to the blacksmith, who might have a clue as to the nature. This is like a war-focused city, so they're going to have Master Smith who knows what's up, and we can ask to have a look at Marduk's weapon, see if he has any memory of it, or if any stories have been passed around in smithing circles of this ancient blade.
Sure. You make your way along the lower ring to the east side of Iron Sword. So you stay in the lower ring because it's just, as you get higher and higher,
Streets are narrower.
The streets, and they are packed. Everyone is out tonight. It is an absolute nightmare. Alder, your suggestion that it's 10 minutes more, because I said it's 10 or 15 more to wind your way out, that would be in the morning.
Right.
That's not now. Now is going up higher to the Citadel is going to be a task. Now, it's not impossible. There's nothing wrong with the idea, but it's going to take longer than you would anticipate because of the fact that the streets are absolutely packed. And as you work your way on the lower ring, out of the west side of town to the east side of the city, there's tension, is the best way to describe it. Now, it's not necessarily raw sword type of tension, but when the town switches from the west side to the east side, there are large groups of individuals dressed. You see that the Eastlanders are red and silver, and the West Enders are blue and silver, which you know because that's where you came into town. But you see these red and silver shirts, and eventually you cross over a street that bisects the two halves of the town, and they are literally standing on either end of the ring, and each are chanting and singing songs and pumping fists in the air at the other side. There's vendors set up all over the place where you can get flags and you can get food, ale. It's just this carnival atmosphere of very, very deeply seated pride in what they believe is the right side of the equation of being east side versus west side. So you cross over. It's slow going because people are in the way. And as you go deeper into the west side, you're surrounded by West Enders. So the tension kind of alleviates a bit.
Grodor, the last time you were here during this nighttime showing, was there a riot after one of the sides won?
Just individuals. Some people get drunk and hot-headed, but no major, full-blown half of the city is attacking the other half of the city.
Okay.
They do this.
Maybe those are the nights I'm remembering.
They do this every couple months. They got some control over it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it at all. Mm-hmm. I think there have been times when there have been certain people that were really favored to win one way or another that didn't or did, and things got a little crazy. But for the most part, it's just a lot of fun, except for the people who take it a little too far, but not everybody.
I don't think that happened in the area that Melody was hanging out in.
Even in the middle ring, it can get a little dicey sometimes. These divisions exist because the East has fallen several times, and there's definitely some resentment to the West, who has just stood here fast.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the West Enders don't generally get hit by the catapults of the enemy ballista in weaponry. The east side of the town took the damage.
And they have family out east. And
I would say that there would have to even be a noticeable difference in the architecture on the east side versus the west side, where I would think the side that didn't take that much damage has got a lot of historical buildings and such and shops there, where on the east side there's some noticeable places that are new because they were destroyed and somebody built something new there.
And a lot squatter and a lot sturdier.
Thicker walls.
it should be noted, I didn't mention, and I just want to make sure you guys make an educated decision in what you decide to do. The Eagle's Nest does have a roof for viewing of the jousting as well. So, yeah, it's in the name.
I point out the place as we pass it. We can stop here, or we can continue up into the Citadel for the military housing.
You find the side street that goes straight up the hill, and you get on that, and it passes by a corner tavern or inn that you're familiar with, and you can either stop there or continue up the hill through some pretty heavy traffic, but still doable. Probably, you're guessing maybe you'll get there. Right now it's about 8:30 at night. Took you about a half hour to get to this point through the streets. It probably will take another half hour to get to the Citadel.
Closer we get to the Citadel, I think it's going to be easier for us to get there. Yeah, and I also think that it's going to be a better choice simply because if we need to replenish any of our supplies, it should be easy to get there.
And you know what else I'm thinking is that because of this leering upcoming confrontation that we're having with lawgivers, tensions are a little bit higher than usual.
I want to say I think that's a really fair estimation, Grodor. Yeah. There seems to be more competitiveness and more tension than you felt in the past, and it very well could be the fact that the lawgivers are knocking on your door.
So therefore, I think it would be safer and more patrolled the higher you go. So I'd say the higher is better.
So you guys make your way past the Eagle's Nest, winding your way up the side of the hill as the buildings get smaller, the roads get a little narrower. There are patrols out, mostly Soul Watch. The town guard is out and about. They are overwhelmed. They're a drop in the bucket to the amount of people. It's as if the entire town went outside in one day. It just packed the streets. It's quite a scene. There's a lot of revelry. There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of people who are drunk already because it's getting to be dusk at this point as you work your way up the hill. The higher up you get, it seems people have been camped for much of the day and have been drinking for probably much of the day. Eventually, you find your way by around 9 bells to one of the inner walls of the Citadel. It is manned not by the Soul Watch, but by the Soul Guard, the actual military.
I am definitely saluting the Soul Watch as we head up there, kind of honoring them for doing the job that they're doing. And when we get up to the Soul Guard, I step forward and go and talk to some of them. We are on a mission, and we're passing through the city, and it has been an exhausting voyage for us so far. But we need some place to stay for the night where we're going to feel safe and secure, and we know you do a wonderful job at doing that. I pull on the chain and pull out the Fist of Amira and set it on my chest where normally it's hidden, and say, if necessary and you think we need to talk to your commander, I would gladly do that. But if you could let us through, it's been an exhausting day for us.
Go ahead and make persuasion check. And I'm not going to give you advantage, but I'm going to lower the DC because of the flashing of the badge and the way you approached it.
And I rolled a 25.
The guard, when you first start talking, he's like, yeah. And then as you bring out the medallion, every kid that grew up to be in the Soul Guard heard tales of past Fists of Amira. Young kids generally aspire to that calling. It's a huge, huge thing to be a Fist of Amira and be her will on the sphere on Earth. So his eyes light up. He said, 1 second, please. And he has a brief conversation with his partner who's guarding the post, and his partner goes off. He explains to you, we just have to talk to our captain and make sure that it's all right, but I don't see why we wouldn't have room for you in one of the outer buildings for the night.
Understood, of course.
And within 5 minutes, the soldier comes back and nods and says, they can stay in the barracks, the white barracks, for the night. The one who was talking to you said, yeah, I'll lead you there. And he takes you through some of the streets of the Citadel, because the Citadel isn't all enclosed. It has open areas as well. The area, it's impressive, the amount of machinery and weaponry and soldiers that they have even though war hasn't been declared yet, it's impregnable, it looks to be, as he leads you through various gates and murder holes and portcullises. It's just really impressive. And eventually
I absolutely share the impression that I'm getting with this individual.
Oh, he's very proud and smiles widely when you share your words.
This is amazing. I mean, I have been trained at the academy, and it's nothing compared to the just incredible base that you have there. I've never seen something like this.
Yeah, he smiles widely and says, 800 years, never falling.
And I can see why. Yes.
Sell it on t-shirts.
West Siders.
West Enders.
Yeah, my bad.
That. So he eventually leads you to a long building made of very light sandstone, which is the White Barracks. He calls out to some soldiers there, and several of them are attempting to take the horses and your wagon, basically help give them a place to stay, some food, and then another one leads you into the actual citadel itself, not citadel, but the barracks itself, where there's a common area. It's not a bunch of bells and whistles here. It's pretty bare bones, but there's comfortable beds, and
as we did in the first camp that we came across long ago, I'm making sure that I'm just being generous with praise so that they'll remember us in case we ever need them to remember us, type of thing.
Right.
It never hurts to have someone remember you if you're in a situation that you need their help. So.
Sure. And you think that you've gone about doing that to the people you've talked to. There's a lot of different people coming up to you and just, these will be your beds for the night. And the mess hall is through that door, and it's not great, but it's food. And
but what do you say the best food is? Because I'm sure you know, like, what's the best cook? What do they make?
In Iron Sword Pass, he tells you that wild boar is a delicacy. There's some high mountain woods throughout the pass. The boar there are exceptional. And so when we have boar, which tonight's a special night, so we're having boar, or had boar earlier.
Here's hoping they still have some, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He tells you to go through there and talk to the cook, and he'll set you up. Within a short period of time, you guys are situated in the mess hall by yourselves. The cook's heating up some leftover boar stew. He's got some hard bread. He's got some greens because they believe in a rounded diet for their soldiers. And there's ale and milk for those who don't partake in ale. Some goat's milk. By the time you're finished, it's closing in on 10 bells, which is when the joust begins. Even from this high up, you can hear the chanting of the songs and the anthems of the various Eastlanders and West Enders filtering its way up. To be sure, it's not loud, but the fact that you could still hear it, even up here, is impressive.
Gordor's thinking about slipping off to this library, see if he can get in while this excitement's going on.
I am not one for revelry, but Marduk is interested in Melody's idea to examine the sphere with a smith.
I'm chuckling because Marduk is referring to Marduk as Marduk.
Marduk is tired. Marduk talks in the third person.
To get into this library, do I need a note, or can I just show up and start looking through stuff? Do I need you to introduce me to somebody, Melody?
I don't think I know them any better than you do.
I can attempt to talk to somebody for you and see if we can get you in.
Yeah, if you need a roll about it. I think that our library card is our badge at this point.
Yeah.
Right. It is definitely closed, the military's library, for the night, because it's, again, almost 10 bells at night. So it's something that probably closes around 5 or 6 bells.
I'm assuming they have guards nearby that are doing something like there's got to be equipment storage and they're guarding that.
Oh, there's guards all over the place. Yeah.
Right. So someone who's on duty, I go up and ask them, listen, I know we didn't arrive until late in the evening, but I have a friend here who really wanted to do some research on some things that we found along the way that might be endangering people. So I know it's not up to you, but tell me who I need to talk to about getting into the library for tonight. You must have a librarian.
Yes, I think that most people are probably getting ready for the tournament. I can try to have someone track down a librarian to see if they could open up. I'm not sure how successful that will be, but I'll let you talk to them and see if you can convince them.
Sure.
Because
Appreciate it.
This is a big moment, obviously, for the town, and I'm sure they would hate to miss out. But if it's official business and it's important for a military purpose, then I understand. He goes ahead and marches off, leaving someone else to guard the equipment.
I asked him as he's leaving, would you prefer that we follow you so that you don't have to come back and find us, or I'd like to save you a little trouble here?
That would be fine.
All right.
He says, looking up at the sky, the lights. You're on the northern side of the city, as far as you're on the eastern side, but you're on the northern side of the eastern side. He's looking up towards the lights which run along the northern side of the citadel, where the tournament's going to begin. And you can see, as you look up, follow his gaze, there are war eagles that are circling the citadel and riding the mountain breezes. There's a cheer as the eagles appear in the sky from down below. And he's looking up, but also walking towards his destination, and says,
I nod my head up towards the Eagles. Do you have a bet, or is it just a certain team you want to win?
I'm asking if there's a favorite for both sides this year.
okay. He takes both of those questions in stride as he's walking briskly towards his destination. He says, well, we're West Enders, so we tend to believe in the blue and silver. Hopefully it'll be our night tonight.
You certainly have more experience, right?
Certainly do. We're the bulwark of the nation for sure, and we're going to prove it again tonight. He's all pumped up and excited. They pulled off an upset last time. It was absolutely ridiculous. No, they're not going to do it again. There's no way.
No, I'm sure you guys have figured out. You'll take them. I don't doubt it.
Yeah, we've got him for sure. And plus, the last competition, Ordu was out. He was away on a mission, so he couldn't even fly. He's by far the best rider we have. He'll be riding 7th tonight to take home that victory just in case we need it for a tiebreaker.
Cool.
So yeah, it's going to be a good night for us, I'm sure of it. After about 5 minutes or so of walking again through all kinds of alleys and streets and corridors and in and out of buildings and through portcullises and different things, you find yourself deeper in the citadel than you were previously where you were staying and where you're bedding down for the night. He eventually finds a small office where there's a white-haired individual bent over a desk and scribing something down.
What was this guard's name?
Holg Benrift.
Holg, thank you very much for bringing us here. I would suggest you go back to your post, although you might want to take a different route. I'm like pointing out towards the outside where you have to walk along the outer wall and maybe watch a few things.
Right. He smiles widely and says, I would love to, but I can't leave you unattended unless you're being led into the library. So
Good point.
I'm going to stand outside for a little bit, but I'm still within eye contact with you.
We will not leave without you if we're not permitted. We'll come find you.
It sounds to all the world when the 10th bell goes off that there are literal fireworks in the sky announcing the start of the tournament. He was like walking towards the outdoor corridor that he could hear in, and as soon as the fireworks start going off, his pace quickens and he walks even faster and gets outside and kind of looks at you and then looks back up into the sky. He's handling it well. If he's disappointed or if he's upset that he's stuck on this duty, he's being very professional about it.
Okay, the librarian we're looking at?
It is a male. He has whiter hair, which you see with some older elves occasionally. So he must be around for a while, and he doesn't seem to care much for the festivities that are taking place tonight.
I had a feeling a lot of the bookworms would be more interested in the books than the sky today.
Right.
Good evening, sir. My name is Alder Rusha. This here is my friend Grodor.
Nice to meet you, sir.
He looks up and smiles. What can I help you with?
Well, we're on a mission in which we've had a couple of things we need to do some research on that we've discovered along the way. And we were wondering, I know it's past the normal hours. I know that you're working on something extremely important there, but we were wondering if we could potentially get access to the library. So my friend Grodor here could do a little bit of research. He's always been one to look at knowledge as an important thing.
I assure you it would be just for research only. I will not be taking any books with me.
Citizens generally aren't allowed in the library after
I reach
hours?
into my chain, pull it outside.
Right.
Actually, we are members of the military, and in fact, Fists of Amira. It's just something we don't like to make public knowledge because our missions are not publicly known.
He looks suitably impressed. Go ahead and make a persuasion check. I'll allow one of you to make a roll with advantage while the other one helps.
So I can assist
Okay, thank you.
with this.
Yeah, guidance would actually be nice. So I rolled a 12 and a 12, but with the guidance, which Grodor gave me, I get to add 2 more for a total of 14.
Again, because of your badges, I have a lower DC than I normally would have for that roll.
Mm-hmm.
He nods sagely, says, sure, I can take you into the common area. The restricted area I would need higher authority for, but I'm sure if you're just doing some research, it should be fine with our standard library, correct?
Sure.
He gets up from his desk, moves elegantly down the corridor, up some stairs, and eventually to a large oak door that he pulls out a ring of keys that were on his side and opens it up.
On the way there, I do ask him, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name. What was it again? He never said it, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Right, he never did. His name is Jaros Bellis. He leads you into, it's a large room. It's a hall. It's not just a room, it's a hall. But compared to some of the libraries in Temerity, as far as size goes and construction, as far as like white marble inlaid with green, it's nothing like that. It's very pedestrian. It's very utilitarian. It's a large room, and he mutters something under his breath, and lights flash on throughout. There's some, again, chandeliers, but not crystal, not glass, more like wooden with deer antlers. It's a different style from what you got used to at the academy. You're definitely in the mountains, and
Yeah.
you're definitely in a different place.
It's not a huge library, but it's a good library, but it's
always good, yeah.
But it's not made for beauty, it's made for purpose.
Exactly.
But he did mention that there was a common room, and then that kind of implies that there is another room. Is there anything that we can see close by?
There are other doors, large, stout oak doors, leading from this hall. He did mention offhandedly that there was a restricted section.
Which I was going to ask him about. Jaros, what would be needed to get access to the restricted area if such information was needed?
Jaros says that would require the granting by the Watchlord. And unfortunately, he is preoccupied this evening with the festivities that everyone seems to be so gung-ho about.
He's not flying tonight, is he?
No, he's not part of the War Eagles. He's just master of ceremonies, if you will.
I said I'm sure he's busy.
He is, but the rest of the library is absolutely at your disposal.
Absolutely, and thank you very much.
Yes, let me know when you're finished. I'll just be over here. And he goes to a bookshelf, grabs a book, and settles in.
And I sit down next to him. Bellis, I have a question for you, if you don't mind me asking.
Please, Jaros.
You definitely look someone with great experience, that you've been here stationed quite a while. Partially what I'm doing is distracting him so Grodor can do whatever Grodor wants. So I don't know if it assistance in any way.
I'm trying to think if there's something in particular you guys wanted me to look up while I'm here besides stuff that I think I want to look up.
Potentially Marduk, did you want him to look up something about your spear?
That's more Melody, because it was kind of Melody's plan to go look for
No
the
reason we can't do both, but Melody was mostly bringing you there as a favor for all the shit she gave you earlier. I didn't have anything in specific for you to look up. If you want to help with the spear, go for it.
If you were just looking for a description of the weapon and Amira, did the spear come from somewhere, maybe that's enough. We don't, you don't have the celestial writings or an inscription, but if you could maybe look at a history or a reference, maybe that might
Did it have a name? Were there people that used it? You know,
Right.
that would
Right.
definitely help.
Or a legend that has a spear that matches that description, sort of thing.
So I do talk to Jaros until Grodor wanders off. And what I'm asking, Jaros, you have worked at this location for quite a while?
I have, actually. I have been here over 100 years. I am currently the head librarian, but there are other equally talented librarians who work to keep this a thriving, well-respected library in our country.
I am sure. But the question I have is because one of my parents, in fact my mother, Alyssa Rusha, used to be, well, a very important member of the Church of Amira. And she traveled on many, many missions. And I was wondering if you've ever seen her come through here. And I give him a description of what she looked like, along with her name.
Right. I'm gonna roll a luck die. He sadly shakes his head. Sure, she was a fine woman, and I'm sorry that I never crossed paths with her. But the name nor the description rings a bell, and as I said, I've been here a while, so if she was here and you know that she was here, she could talk with the other librarian.
Here is the thing, my friend. She also was one that had to go on missions that people couldn't know about, so she might have looked different and used a different name. I was just curious if you've ever seen her. And to my knowledge, she has passed on, and I was hoping to learn a little bit more about her history and her life and the things she did. But alas, I must just kind of take her place and work for Amira as she did her life.
He nods solemnly. He seems like a decent elf. He listens to your story. He looks sad when you say she probably met her end. Looks heartened when you say you're taking her place and continuing on the family tradition. So all in all, he makes for a pretty good conversationalist. And
yeah. Truthfully, I was trying to find out information if it did exist, but I was also doing it on my distraction in case Grodor wanted to do, whatever Grodor wanted to do.
Even the slightest bit of deception. He seems, doesn't seem to be in his DNA to be looking for deception. You're Fist of Amira. On a mission.
If I have time, I'd like to research 2 subjects, but if I only have time for one, then I'm just going to look things up on the spear.
This would be probably a history, intelligence history. Go ahead and roll and see what you come up with in the library.
Oh, bad history roll. I got an 8.
You spend an hour looking through tomes, trying to connect dots. It has a very robust military history as far as some of its volumes go. You found a couple of spears that were magical, but each one was a dead end.
Yeah, I have a feeling what I'm looking for is in the restricted area.
Very well could be.
The other thing I wanted to try to look up while I was here is any information on my patron. I'm still trying to suss out the history and where she may or may not have come from and her past and her history.
Okay. You spend another hour doing that and go ahead and make a history check.
That one is much better. I rolled a total of 18, 16 plus 2.
Okay. A difficult subject to be sure. These volumes are going to be not super in-depth as far as things of a mystical nature go, but there are references, there are points of which I won't share with you right now because I don't want to share in front of the rest of the group.
Right.
But let's say you found 3 bits of information that were interesting about your patron. I will send you a text with 3 separate pieces of information based on your roll of an 18 during the week.
Yeah, I'll send you something beforehand just so it might give you some more flavor on what to send me.
Okay. Cutting away from the library for a moment as we wrap up there, I want to go to Melody and Marduk, who were looking into, I think, something to do with a blacksmith?
Right, Melody using her contacts or probably the weaponsmiths in town, either someone that she is connected to or has been referred to, and we wanted to maybe examine the spear.
Right.
And also, Marduk has been using the spear almost like a banner of an Amira, in the sense that I'm not really concealing. I've used it several times now where I use its illumination and light it up, so I kind of am treating it almost like a relic of Amira, something that kind of reveals her presence or that her return to the world. I'm not shy of sharing it, because the weapon, it's now attuned to me, so no one can really take it from me.
I will say that you and Mel wind your way into the crowds. You take leave of the Citadel, because Mel knows of a weaponsmith of the West Enders and can lead you to his shop.
This is a big muster point for the Amiran peoples during the war, so the position of smith is probably a high one in the Citadel, and they may have heard some stories of legendary Amiran artifacts. They would just be better connected in the weapons community than we are, and therefore might know something word of mouth rather than by book, and we could ask that way about Marduk's spear.
You make your way through the eastern suburbs of Ironsword. You and Marduk, occasionally your eyes are swept upward when you hear a huge cheer as the eagles are about to approach each other and joust. It's short and violent. It's very majestic as well. The eagles kind of just, in a way, charging at each other across a vast open space that's lit up in the night sky. Two long lances gleaming, in some cases glowing because they're magical in nature, or maybe it's just that way so you can see them better from a distance. But it's an amazing sight. And you find your way to a weapon shop that your parents had indicated that they knew the owner, whose name was Dunnebeck Gurin. It is closed. By the time you get there, it's a little bit past 10 bells. But what you do see is a group of dwarves on the roof of the establishment, looking upward, cheering on the jousters.
Yeah. Ready to make some friends, Marduk?
Yes.
With that winning attitude, let's set up. There's still street vendors, I assume, handing things out. I'm gonna spend at least a gold on some fine, like a cask I can bring up.
Okay, sure. You can find a cask, a smaller cask, but a cask of wine.
Yeah, just something I can tap for a couple mugs while we're up there.
Okay, sure.
Good idea.
I'm gonna try to make my way up to the roof. I don't know if they have a door unlocked or if there's a ladder up, how they got up there in the first place.
There is a ladder. It's a one-story establishment, kind of tall because it's a smithy. So there's a forge in there. So
it's got to have the hearth chimney.
Yeah, exactly. There's certainly high ceiling. So there is a ladder, to be fair, made for dwarfish height. So it's a little tricky. You have little steps more often than you're used to with ladders, but you can both work your way up to the roof. And there seems to be about 10 dwarves up there or so, one of which is very obviously Dunnebeck, because he's got soot on his face and on his arms with his rolled up sleeves.
He's still wearing
a thick leather apron he's still wearing. They also have a cask up there of alcohol, and they're cheering and singing and being just fans.
I unwrap a couple of tin mugs from inside a pack and clank them together to get some attention.
He looks over.
And I hold up
joining us for this wonderful evening?
I hold up the cask in the air and I say, "Daughter of your friend, I suppose. The Harmony family's come back to see you."
He looks for a second and kind of squints and thinks and is like, "Oh, the Harmonies. Yes, all right. Is your parents in town, or is it just you?"
I'm traveling back to visit and got an interesting friend coming with me, and I thought I'd introduce you to, since he has something you might be interested in. Not to distract, just to add to the evening, a bit of ambiance. and I nudge Marduk to get his spear glowing.
Right. I step forward and I respectfully and traditionally draw the spear and present it to him in two hands, not as a weapon, but as a warrior to another, the proper way to exchange weapons.
Right.
Then I invoke the runes on the shaft of the spear to glow.
His eyes grow wide. He says, "What the 9 hells? What is that weapon?" He comes closer to...
there's a glint of teeth as I start to uncork the cask and pour a couple and hand them around to the dwarves.
What weapon? He's entranced immediately. Being a weaponsmith, all you need to do is show him something that's obviously ancient, obviously has runes on it that glow. Yeah, he's all in at this point. Marduk, make this persuasion check, but I'm going to have you do it with advantage because of Melody's introduction and the obvious glowing weapon you have.
Since it's Melody's introduction, would she do the persuasion check and I'm supporting her with my...
I'm going more with she's helping you because you're the one that's offering.
I believe I also made the DC pretty low, so don't worry too much.
Okay, persuasion, I mean, if I want to intimidate him to liking it, then that's fine, but persuading him, it'd be... Alright, Let me see what happens here. 1 second.
If it's low, we'll just go with jealousy.
I rolled a 4 and an 8. With advantage, that's an 8.
Yeah, the 8's not terrible, but what's interesting to see is he's taken aback and he's enthralled, but you noticed an undercurrent of jealousy. Like, he would like this weapon. This is
avarice.
Yeah, avarice, exactly. That's a better word for what he's experiencing right now as he takes a look at it. He takes it from your hands, and you could just see in his eyes that dwarfish glint of greed. He's just mesmerized by it. He's absolutely floored. He's like, I don't recognize the language. It looks like it's probably Elvish or Celestial? Do you know?
We were told that it was Celestial. I do not read it, so I can only go by smarter people than I.
Where does one find a weapon like this?
I believe it was given to me by Amira in a dream. And to maybe emphasize that point, I can also exert my will to summon the weapon back to my hands magically.
Make an insight check.
I make an insight
check?
Both
of you. Yeah, both of you make an insight check.
Oh my goodness. I rolled an 8.
Well, you were focused on the weapon, Marduk.
Fair enough.
You were focused on bringing it back in your arms.
I got a 15.
Melody, you definitely notice, like a frown just appears at the corners of his lips when the weapon magically disappears from his hands. That there was some disappointment. Not anger so much, but disappointment that the weapon was no longer in his hands. He was certainly really enjoying looking at it and just delving into its secrets, if you will. He kind of takes a step back just in surprise when it disappears from his hands. And then he mutters something, kind of trying to jest and wipe over his irritation with a nice trick, that. So, this weapon that you think was brought to you in a dream by Amira herself, is this something recent? Is this something that's happened years ago? As the priests tell us, she hasn't spoken, so I'm just kind of taken aback by the suggestion that this was given to you by the goddess herself.
Surely you've heard about the lawgivers beginning to move on us again.
Absolutely.
Well, the goddess has always been for us before.
Yeah, she has. Well, that would be wonderful if she returned. That would be amazing. Well, I can't do much with the runes, as I don't speak Celestial, but I can talk about the weapon itself, if I may, and he reaches a hand out.
I present it back to him.
The whole Amira thing seems to have changed his attitude a little bit. You don't notice the same glint in his eyes. You don't notice the same reactions he had earlier. He seems to have turned a corner a bit. He looks at the weapon and he says, after about maybe a minute or so of just studying it just intently, he says, this wood, this is strange wood. This is not wood from our climb. This is something completely different. I would have to have it for longer and do more research. But if you're asking for a quick appraisal, this wood is not from the sphere.
When you say sphere, you mean
the
our world?
Yeah. It's from the Ember, which is the catch-all term for the outer planes and the inner planes and ethereal plane and the astral plane beyond the veil.
Oh my. Sweet.
He smiles and says, will you join us for the rest of the competition? We're up 2-1. I think we got a chance of taking it home.
We will certainly join you for a drink, but we do have other tests this evening. But I wouldn't mind watching one round of the joust. Melody?
Okay.
I got this to share in order to get your opinion. I will leave it with you, this cask. But, Marduk, if you want to spend the night here, see what more he can discern from it, I won't stop you. I myself need to get back.
Master Smith, thank you for your expertise. I'll toast to your health, but then I will go with my companion and let you guys enjoy the rest of the joust.
So you have a quick drink with him. It's between jousts at this time. There's more fireworks that go between the various competitions. Mm-hmm. You and Melody say your farewells and depart before the next joust takes place as you head back to the Citadel.
As we're heading back to the Citadel, just as part of kind of getting a lay of the land, so to speak, do I have a perception or insight into, is the crowd getting a little rambunctious or ugly, or is everyone still pretty much in relatively good humor?
It's right at the edge of rambunctious. Maybe it's rambunctious right at the edge of more than that.
That's not dangerous, or it doesn't look like it's going to break out into...
Your danger right now, walking through the streets, is getting alcohol spilled on you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Getting jostled, being pulled aside, and being asked to sing along with them.
Gotcha.
As they chant their various songs and anthems. That's what you experience. It's still good-natured, and the Eastlanders are leading 2 jousts to 1 at this point in the evening. They're in better spirits than probably the West Enders would be right now.
Okay.
And you make your way back. That takes us to Gabrielle, who stayed in the Citadel. I'm assuming found a good spot to watch the tournament? Or did she sleep?
Yeah,
or
for sure she wants to watch the tournament. I was trying to think of if I did anything else significant yet.
Well, there are groups all over the place, groups of soldiers. If there was going to be a sneak attack by the lawgivers, this would be the perfect night to do it. The Citadel is still being guarded, the city's still being guarded, but everyone is distracted. They're all looking up, instead of looking out into the vast darkness of the mountain pass, they're all looking up to the lit sky of the Citadel to see the competition. So it is not hard to find a spot on a roof somewhere within the Citadel that you're looking almost straight up to the battles that are taking place. You can be with the Soul Guard, with the Soul Watch. There are numerous amounts of each of them standing in clusters, sitting in clusters, drinking in clusters, or you could find your own spot and just take it all in.
I think depends how long it takes everyone else to get back, but in between jousts, Gabrielle will be heading to different groups.
Okay.
But every joust she will spend with the crew, bolstering their cheers and enjoying the atmosphere, drinking a bit with each group, just really experiencing the revelry. It's one thing she doesn't think she'll get the chance to do again. For quite a while, we're about to set into hard travel.
Yeah, you are. And it's fun. The Soul Guard, the Soul Watch that you intermingle with are, for the most part, passionate about the competition, but they're also young and fun, and you're an attractive young lady, and they're, in many cases, good-looking young men, and there's alcohol involved. So it's not like anything's happening, but it's a jovial, festive moment where people are just slapping high fives and embracing each other spontaneously when the Eastlanders score a victory. And so it's just wonderful experience, and you're partaking in it. It's been at least an hour since Mel and Marduk disappeared, it's been over an hour since Alder and Grodor disappeared. At this point, it's 11 bells, and it's coming down to the last competition. It is tied at 3-3 as far as the jousts go.
At this point, I'm going to find a vantage point by myself.
Okay.
Private one that I can find.
Okay. Most of the really good spots are well known because it happens every 3 months.
Right.
Not at night necessarily, but the jousts themselves happen every 3 months. Finding a really good spot is by yourself is kind of difficult, but you find a spot where you have to crane your neck a little bit more, and you see Vordu, who you've heard talk about being the 7th jouster for the Eastlanders. Vordu is riding an all-white war eagle. It's a sight to behold. The opponent from the West End is also flying in circles preparing for the final joust, because what they do is they fly in circles and they come out of their circle and come straight at each other, lances forward. Both of the combatants have lit lances, so they're glowing with magic light, which again you've ascertained is all of them have been lit so far. Yeah. So you think there's not that many magic lances around. It's probably just a spell that's cast to allow for the spectators to be able to take it all in.
As they begin their approach.
Yeah.
Gabrielle casts a furtive glance left, right, all around to ascertain exactly how alone she is.
She could be standing in the Arctic by herself. Everyone is looking up and screaming at the top of their lungs.
Okay. Then, for just a moment, she looks down and whispers a prayer, and then her eyes begin to glow, and 2 luminous incorporeal wings sprout from her back. And she flies out just a couple of feet past the edge of the roof so she can get a better angle on the approach.
Okay.
Now that she can't be seen.
Right. No, she's not really seen, but it is obviously an impressive sight, and for you, it's a defining moment because it's the first moment that it's happened, right?
Exactly. I haven't had the chance in private, and it's never been relevant, but now is the perfect time to
absolutely
spread my wings and try it out.
And the War Eagles approach each other at speed, and literally the entire city of Iron Sword is screaming at this point. It's absolute bedlam. People are jumping up and down in place. They're pointing, they're yelling, they're waving their banners. It's absolute crescendo of noise as the 2 War Eagles get closer and closer and closer as they speed towards each other, and both lances shatter with impact and strike home their blow. And the West Ender gets dislodged from his saddle and plummets towards the earth for a good 20-30 feet before a taut rope catches his fall tied to harness that he's in.
I think Gabrielle's exclamation matches the crowd's. You can hear it all the way from up here as they are amazed.
Yes, and Vordu, just with the impact of the lance in his chest, just gets pushed backwards and he grips on with all his strength into his reins. His hand slips off, he grabs onto his saddle, and he slips halfway off, dangling just above falling towards the ground, and he's able to right himself on his eagle. The Eastlanders have won the day, and there is just absolute, as I said before, the bedlam is now shifted. The western side of the city has fallen silent, and the eastern side, if it was impossible, is even noisier. It's even louder. It feels like the hill itself is shaking from people jumping up and down and hugging each other and screaming at the top of their lungs. So the joust comes to a very exciting end as far as the Eastlanders are concerned, and a very despondent and horrible end as far as the West Enders are concerned. And that's what we'll call it for this night. I want to thank everyone for listening. Appreciate you taking the time to join us on this adventure. Hope you enjoyed the various stories that unfolded tonight. And I also want to thank the players who each waited their turn and got a moment to shine in the spotlight, and hopefully you enjoyed the evening as well. Even though there was no combat, there was a lot of interesting role-playing, I thought, and some good stuff was learned. Please join us again next week as we continue the adventure, The Heretic.
Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter @KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTN-fan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com, where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side. For those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills, or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure. Your family's not very good with names, Melody. But you're not a bard. If you're a bard, that would be funny, but you're not. All that'll go to the outtakes.
I was wondering, can I just declare some contacts here, or is there something I need to roll for this?
I think because of your history as a traveling diplomat for a while, you definitely have been through Iron Sword on a couple of different occasions. I don't think it's been 10 or 12, but probably 3 or 4 times at least you've passed through the town. Maybe a few more. So if you want to have a few contacts that aren't ridiculous, maybe an inn owner.
I spent my youth traveling with my parents back and forth, but from the main city, Temerity, back home, because they are, what are they called? Exemplars?
Yes.
So I feel like some of these people have watched me grow up.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you having connections in the city.
Say what you rolled.
Marduk rolled a 13.
Or their shit, whatever. I don't care.
Right.
But, man, we had that PG rating.
I just keep picturing that video joust game.
Yeah, that was a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When you mentioned joust, I was thinking, like, they get knocked off, they turn into an egg.
Yeah.
JHAEROS Bellus. BELLUS. Jaros Bellus.
This is a big muster point for
Nice.
Big glowy motorcycle.
The eastern part.
Sorry, I'll mute it.
No, that's okay.
Dunnebeck, thank you. I've got orc teeth and tongue. It's sometimes, Dwarven names are hard.
Got that orc list.
Yeah.
Other possible titles for this episode that were available for voting in the Facebook fan page were Our Library Card is Our Badges at this point. Paper Drake. Marduk is tired. Marduk talks in the third person. Beyond the Veil. Eagles Jousting. And I Can Only Go by Smarter People Than I.